I was wandering through the winding streets of the city, my mind buzzing with thoughts of overdue bills and a dead-end job. It was a chilly evening, the kind where the cold seeps into your bones despite the layers of clothing. The sky was a dull gray, and a light drizzle began to fall, making the pavement slick and treacherous. I pulled my coat tighter around me, wishing for a break, any break, from the relentless grind of my daily life. The neon signs of the rundown bars and convenience stores flickered in the damp night, casting eerie reflections on the wet ground. The city felt like a labyrinth of despair, each turn leading to more dead ends. I could hear the distant hum of traffic, the occasional blare of a car horn, but the streets I walked were mostly deserted. That's when I saw him. A man standing under a flickering street lamp, his shadow cast long and ominous in the dim light. He was impeccably dressed in a dark suit that seemed out of place in this part of town. His shoes were polished to a shine and his hair was neatly combed, giving him an air of authority and confidence. As I drew nearer, he turned his head and our eyes met. There was something unsettling in his gaze, a predatory glint that sent a shiver down my spine. "Good evening," he said, his voice smooth and inviting, with a faint accent I couldn't place. "You look like a man who could use a bit of luck." I hesitated, but the lure of something, anything, that might change my fortune was too strong to resist. "Yeah, you could say that," I replied cautiously, my curiosity piqued. He smiled a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I have something that might interest you." From his coat pocket, he produced a small, intricately carved wooden box. It was an antique, the wood worn smooth with time and use, with symbols etched into its surface that looked ancient and mysterious. "This is a talisman of sorts. It has the power to grant its owner unimaginable wealth." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. "Sure, and I'm the King of England." His smile widened, showing perfect, gleaming teeth. "I'm quite serious. All I ask in return is a small favor. A token of your appreciation, if you will." "And what kind of favor is that?" I asked, my skepticism wearing with desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. "Nothing you can't handle," he said, his tone almost dismissive. "Do we have a deal?" I glanced at the box, then back at the stranger. What did I have to lose? My life was already a mess. "Deal," I said, extending my hand. He shook it firmly, and the moment our hands touched, I felt a strange energy course through me. It was as if an electric current had passed between us, leaving my skin tingling. He handed me the box, and with a final unsettling smile, disappeared into the shadows, as if he had never been there. When I got home, I opened the box with trembling hands. Inside was a small, ancient-looking coin. It shimmered in the dim light of my apartment, catching the light in a way that seemed almost otherworldly. The coin was inscribed with symbols similar to those on the box, and it felt warm to the touch, pulsing slightly, as if it were alive. I felt a strange compulsion to keep it close. That night, I dreamt of riches beyond my wildest imagination. Money, luxury, everything I had ever wanted. The next morning, I woke to find my bank account had inexplicably skyrocketed. There were deposits from sources I couldn't trace, amounts that defied logic. At first, I was ecstatic. I paid off all my debts, bought a new car, and moved into a luxurious apartment in the heart of the city. Everything seemed perfect. But then, strange things started to happen. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision. Whispers filled the air when I was alone, and I felt an ever-growing sense of dread. It was as if the coin was cursed, bringing with it not just wealth, but something darker. One night, as I lay in bed, the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. I sat up, my breath visible in the icy air. There, at the foot of my bed, stood the stranger, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Enjoying your wealth?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "The favor," he replied simply. "It's time to pay up." "What favor? What do you mean?" I felt a rising panic. He smiled, that cold, predatory smile. "I need a soul, a willing soul, yours." My blood ran cold. No, you can't be serious." "Oh, but I am." He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "You made a deal, and now it's time to fulfill your end of the bargain." I backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The walls seemed to close in around me. "There has to be another way," I pleaded. "Anything." He paused, considering. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "if you find someone else to take your place." Someone else?" I repeated, horrified. "You want me to—" "Choose wisely," he said, his voice echoing in my ears as he vanished, leaving me alone in the freezing room. I spent the next days in a state of paranoia, avoiding friends and family, knowing what was at stake. The shadows grew darker, the whispers louder, and the sense of impending doom unbearable. Finally, desperation took hold. I found myself at a bar, drowning my fear in whiskey, when I noticed a man at the end of the counter, looking as downtrodden as I once did. His name was Mark, and he was struggling, just like I had been. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself telling him about the stranger and the offer, half hoping he'd laugh it off as a joke. But he didn't. Instead, he listened, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "Do you still have the coin?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of disbelief and eagerness. I hesitated, then nodded. "But it's dangerous. You don't know what you're getting into." "I don't care," he said, desperation clear in his voice. "I need this." That night, I slept uneasily, haunted by my decision. The stranger didn't visit me again, but the guilt remained. I knew I had condemned another soul to the same fate, but my own life was spared. Weeks passed, and I had heard nothing of Mark. I tried to move on, but the memories lingered. One day, as I walked through the city, I saw a news report on a giant screen. A man had been found dead in his apartment, the cause unknown, but the look of terror on his face was unmistakable. It was Mark. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I had traded my soul for his, and now he was gone. The stranger's deal had come full circle, and I was left to live with the consequences of my greed and desperation. As I walked away, I felt a presence behind me. Turning, I saw the stranger once more, his smile as cold and predatory as ever. "Enjoying your second chance?" he asked, his voice sending chills down my spine. I said nothing, knowing there was no escape from the deal I had made. The stranger vanished, but I knew he would always be there, lurking in the shadows, a constant reminder of the price I had paid for my greed. And so, I live each day in fear, knowing that one day the stranger will return, and this time, there will be no one left to take my place.